Okay, it's 5:31. We'll call this meeting of the Public Works and Highway Committee to order. Roll call shows everybody is present. I'll entertain a motion for the February 4th meeting minutes.
Move approval of the meeting minutes of February 4th, 2026.
Second.
Any comments or changes to them? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Moving on to public comment. Anybody who would like to step up, present your slip. And right there would be great. If you could state your name for us and address, and then we will,
Is this thing on this time?
the light should go off when it's on. So press the button on press it really hard. And then when the light goes off, you're on.
Okay, my name is Norman Berger. I live at West 141, North 9978, Seven Pines Way. And I'm still here talking about garbage because it's not going anywhere. Just like I spoke at the other village meeting, that the municipalities all around us, they pay their own garbage, so they get something. Menominee Falls, they pick up garbage. 5 condos and more, they pay. But on their tax bill, it's itemized. They pay about $172 a year for garbage pickup. I call the village hall, how much does it cost us to pick up garbage? And the question or the answer I get is, I don't know, we put it in a code. So does everybody pay the same amount on their tax bill? You know, I mean, something has to be done. Seven Pines, we pay $333 a year for garbage pickup. Plus what you take from us on our tax, we're paying maybe $500 a year. I don't know how much you're charging us. And everybody is a listener and nobody makes any comments. So that's all I have to say. I'll listen to the other village meeting. Yes.
Sir, I'll tell you, if it's not on the agenda, we cannot talk about it. When you came to village board and you make your public comments, we're not allowed to respond to
Right.
you.
And it's
So
not
at
on the
some
agenda.
point, we're going to get this on the agenda to have a discussion again. In the meantime, my understanding is that our village president is doing research on this to see why it is the way it is, because he also is new. I know this comes up periodically to the Public Works Board about every 5 years, and the response is the same, that it remains the same, to be honest with you. But I'm happy to look at it again once President Soderberg finishes his research. I'm happy to put it on the agenda.
The only way that this is going to get done, because I'm an individual, is to go public.
Go public. That's
You know,
fine.
With the news, they
Good.
can go to the village hall and find out why this is happening.
I have no problem with that.
Okay, I thank you.
Okay, thank you for coming. Anybody else who would like to speak?
Yes, Melanie Smythe, N140W17938 Cedar Lane. Good evening. I would just like to talk about when you guys are looking for a new DPW director, please reflect back on the things that Matt Mortwed did and the way he went about his job, because he had a combination of looking at the way things were done, looking at the Muni Code to see if there was something that was not being done based on what's already written in the Muni Code, whether the Muni Code needed to be updated. He was forward thinking, and he put into place he brought some new ideas, which I think will benefit the village for many years to come. And I hope that whomever takes his position will respect much of what he has started. And I believe, just from observations, that he was well liked by the department. They had incredibly successful year last year, in spite of all the disasters that were thrown at them. And I really appreciate Mr. Mortwed's time here. The other thing that I would suggest is that really check into the references of those that are whose names are being considered. I have noticed that a lot of times references aren't looked at all, and it's done by, or decisions are made by what somebody says. Well, there's a difference between what somebody says and what people do, and the results. So anyhow, good luck. You guys picked a great one last time. I hope you get another one this time.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else who would like to speak?
My name is Gary Conup. I live at N117W17815 Augusta Court, which is in the Blackstone Creek subdivision. I live right along River Lane. I brought my notes from last time I addressed this. I think it was the village board at that time, because the map that was resubmitted is pretty much the same as the last map that was turned down. So I'll go over the points again. I have some additional points from last time too. The code that requires the map. Bullet point number 2 said generally the village board would continue to plow where sidewalk was in a backyard. If you look at all the homes and condos along River Lane, it's entirely in the backyard. None of those homes face that street. In fact, there's a pretty big earthen berm with multiple trees planted there, so we can't hardly even see the road. So it's inconsistent when you consider Windsong and Sunbury Downs. I know that because I lived in Sunbury Downs for 15 years before I moved to Blackstone Creek. All the homes that in Windsong that border that have their backyards to the street. So it's no different than where we are. Yet on the map, it shows that village will plow the sidewalk that runs along Sunbury Downs and Windsong. The other thing I want to point out, it says HOA condo association or apartment building responsibility for snow removal is proposed to transfer where the adjacent property is managed by an HOA condo association or an apartment building. Again, it's no different than Sunbury Downs or Windsong, or I'm not sure what the name of the subdivision is that's on Division next to Lone Oaks. Again, those homes, the back of the home faces the road, but you're going to continue to plow that. As far as Division Road, it says the HOA condo association, but in a primary corridor. So you're considering, I think Willow Creek Heights is the subdivision along Division Road, and they continue to plow. I don't see it as much of a priority corridor compared to River Lane. We got the high school with numerous hundreds of cars going in and out. We've got the business park, so we have semis going in and out of there. I know what it's like to try and leave my subdivision at 2:30 when the buses are going and the cars are going. The stoplights basically is red until all the buses are get out. So I would consider that a priority corridor. And furthermore, since last time, at the village board meeting, when you guys decided to move the police station to Fond du Lac Avenue, the closest and most direct north-south road from the new police station to Mequon Road is River Lane. You could take Maple, but it's further. You can go into Park Avenue, but you got to zigzag through. So Pilgrim Road would be the other main north-south, and that's further away. So I think that's justification for calling River Lane a priority corridor. It may not happen right now because the police station isn't there yet. There's a lot of young kids in our neighborhood, and I've seen them. I've lived there for 12 years. They're going to grow up, and I've seen them walk into school. So I would consider that a priority corridor. I wish Mr. Soderberg was here because last time he mentioned that, well, if it's an extra $5 for my company to plow the sidewalk, I'm okay with that. I think that's a little short-sighted because it's $5 this year. And next year, the plowing company says, well, it took us more time, so this year it's 20. And then the third year, they're going to come back and say, you know, our equipment's worn out and it's too expensive, so we're not going to plow your sidewalk anymore. You got to find somebody else. And then you're stuck. And then who knows what you're going to pay for a next company to do it. So talked about vision at the last village board meeting. I think we need to look a little bit further out. Again, I circled this last time. This is the map. The village still has to plow all these little sections all over Germantown. They're still responsible for that. I guess if you cannot consider River Lane a priority corridor and plow that, I would consider a more equitable solution then would be just plow that 1 mile square from Mequon Road to Donjas Bay and Division to Pilgrim. Not east of Pilgrim on Donjas Bay or south of Donjas Bay and Division because those subdivisions are no different than ours. Or if you cannot come to that decision, I would say don't plow any of the sidewalks. That will save you money and equipment down the road. To me, that's one of the most equitable, but I would prefer to have River Lane plowed just for the reasons I pointed out. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else who would like to talk tonight? Looks like we're out of people. There's no unfinished business. We'll move on to new business. Resolution to adopt an official snow and ice removal map as required by the update to Municipal Code 8.02.
Ms. Kaminsky,
Committee?
Ms. Kaminsky, are you going to read the
Yes.
public comments that were submitted online?
No, we don't read the public comments that are submitted online. Although we have all read the public comments submitted online? Yes.
Well, I've
But we
submitted.
do not, our policy is that we do not do that anymore. And it's not just this committee, it's all. We had that discussion about 2 months ago. But we
Well,
do know
I'm-
where you stand.
Okay, very good. And I represent Lake Park West, which represents 286 residents who feel the same way as I do regarding this issue.
Okay, and if you'd like to continue making some additional comments right now, please feel free.
Okay, well, and that's really just the previous gentleman. I agree with him as well. We looked at our equipment that we have, and we can't afford to buy new plowing equipment for our property, and we plow it ourselves. So we would have to buy new equipment, just like the village would have to. And this is a budget issue for them. It's a budget issue for us. So I think it's the staffing, and it seems like Menominee or West Bend and Mequon both do the same type of work that we do or we're doing. And we're suggesting that we keep the existing map as is and future developments that's put into their code that they should be plowing their own places. So we're consistent with our message on how we feel, and we brought that to the board and when it came back to this Public Works Committee. So thank you.
Okay, and thank you for also submitting your comments online. I trust we all have read. Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Now we'll move on to have further the good basic overview.
I can provide just an overview of the process so far. There were discussions on the future of sidewalk snow plowing in the village going back into last summer, early last summer, actually. And as the village has been facing challenges with providing, with funding to provide all services, and as the village has been growing, the staff looked into options, alternatives for discontinuing the village plowing of sidewalks in at least some areas of the village. And as the members of the committee are aware, there were several meetings where this topic was discussed. The village attorney was involved and reviewed different alternatives to help to also confirm, what would potentially criteria for deciding which sidewalks or recreational trails the village plowed and which ones we don't would hold up to any potential legal challenges. And after several iterations, there was a map that was voted to be approved by this committee. And that went forward to the village board. There was some additional discussion, and the village board sent it back to committee for some further review, and to look at other alternatives for potentially modifying the map. Matt Mordwit, the previous Public Works Director, did contact all of the village board members who did not vote in favor of the proposed map, and had conversations with them. And I think the result of those conversations was that, this is a difficult decision, and there are people who are obviously affected by this, and anytime that's the case, it makes that decision difficult for the elected representatives. However, there weren't any specific changes that came out of those conversations that the Public Works Director had. And I think there were some members of the board who, as they learned a little bit more about why the map was set up as it was, the criteria that were used, the limitations that the map was developed under, we're looking at potentially taking a different view on it when it goes back to the village board. So the recommendation from staff at this point is to send the originally adopted map back to the village board for consideration.
And when we say the original map, it is the red on the
Correct.
current map that we have in our packet, correct?
Yep.
We're going to plow.
That we are going to plow, and the blue is what we formerly plowed. And just for anybody listening again, too, to refresh our memory, because one of the questions I continually get on this is that there are these spotty little plowing things. There were certainly a lot more of them before on the blue. But there's still some with the red, like a little thing over there. I mean, what do? Pack up the equipment and drive like 2 blocks and then drop it down again? If you could talk about that, why these like little niggly red lines are at certain places on the map, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I would elaborate on that just a little bit. First and foremost, some of those areas are actual village property. One example would be River Lane and Freistadt Road. So the village owns an outlot there with a pond. Obviously, we are the adjacent landowner. So if we're turning it over to the adjacent landowner, we still are the adjacent landowner. So that's some of the areas. Excuse me, I've had a cold here for over a week. As we were developing the map, what we started with was a map that just showed front yard, backyard. And certainly having some consistency so that we're not like driving off the sidewalk, coming back on 2 houses later, driving off. There are areas where the village will still be plowing front yard sidewalks, and it's just a matter of operational consistency. So again, as we discussed at the committee levels before, where we could capture large sections of front yard facing or commercial property which includes a lot of our condominium associations. So when they're coming and talking about it, that's the reason that the rationale behind that is that they're a commercial property. They're already paying for a service or completing the service in-house. That's why they're viewed differently than a private front yard facing. So where we could capture large spaces of front yard facing, that's where we look to turn it over to the private residents. So I hope that answered your question.
Yes, it did. Committee, I'll turn it over to you. What questions do we have? I guess I have one more. How did we ever, like, I see that the blue lines, where we plowed this gentleman who was speaking on WebEx, in Lake Park. How did we ever get involved in that whole thing to begin with? Do you have any idea? It was quick before your time.
Nope. Nope. The section along Lake Park I'm not seeing, well, I can't see the map well, but Western Avenue should be what we're doing by Lake Park. So starting at Main Street, that's a public sidewalk, and that runs south all the way to Mequon Road. And so that would be what would be turned over to the adjacent landowner. Again, I don't think the expectation when staff was putting this together is that you're going to see a bunch of condominium owners run out and have to shovel that. We looked at it as a view of they're all already using commercial style equipment to clear their parking lots and their own internal sidewalks. They get treated the same as everybody else that has a private residence that's in the right of way.
Okay, committee? Bob?
Scott, could you remind us, if we go with this map, what the savings are, potential savings are as far as equipment and labor?
Yeah, I'll give you the ballparks. It's not budget time, but I got it pretty fresh up here. 272,000 was the sidewalk tractor that we had in the 2026 budget. And then we also have a smaller machine for Main Street that was about $50,000. Those two pieces of equipment during the budget discussion, the small tractor was removed, so $50,000 savings there, and the 272 was lowered to about 172. And if you remember correctly, what we were going to do is rather than having the sidewalk tractor that did both turf and snow, we were going to look at a different form of a lawnmower that would get that extra 100,000 in savings. So roughly $150,000 in savings total. I would like to add at this moment, because it's just a great segue, we are currently holding off on purchasing that mower because I want to see where this lands before I go and spend $170,000 on a mower. Because if this doesn't go well, we're going to have to come back with a sidewalk tractor during the next budget cycle and talk about that again.
Okay. My concern, everybody's got an idea of what they want to see. And the more right now, I think we got a plan that's consistent and it makes sense. It's rational. Now, when everybody adds their input, well, I think this road for this reason, I think that sidewalk for that reason, all of a sudden, each one of those starts to introduce inconsistencies, and others will start looking at that and say, well, why not me? So, and that's kind of why we're in a stalemate here right now. Matt tried to reached out to every trustee and talked to those who voted against it. And talking to him offline, he said, everybody's got a different idea on this, and it's a quandary that you end up being in. So I'm in favor of just moving this forward the way it is, and we can try to vet it out at village board. But my concern is every time somebody tries to get their own, preference here, it's going to introduce problems, make things more inefficient for the actual operation of this whole thing.
Thank you for that comment.
Rick?
Yeah, I agree with Trustee Warren that I think we need to move this forward, and I will be completely honest, and I'm going to get a little cheeky, but my 88-year-old mother is the single most affected person by this. She has 540 feet of sidewalk with 6 feet wide that she's now going to be responsible for. And guess what? I'm going to be responsible for it. And I'm going to take my side-by-side with the plow on it because it'll be legal by then. And I'm going to drive it there and I'm going to plow our sidewalk. But I'm still in favor of this. I think that we have to move forward with this. We are the only municipality that plows sidewalks like this. And we need to make a change in order to, tighten up costs.
Thank you.
Jan?
Yes. Well, I have a different tact on it, and all I can say is, Trustee Rick Miller, you're no longer a after summer, when you get into summer, you're not going to be a village trustee, so maybe you'll have extra time to plow. So, just kidding. Trying to make light. Anyway, here we are. One of the things that I have a concern about is I just want to know, is this the map that we're currently using? Is this the map that we're currently plowing?
We would be plowing nearly everything on that map right now. So
So we don't, okay, so
There are
we're on the
exceptions to that,
board.
but-
Okay, so this is just an example, and I sincerely mean it for all these things that come to us. We don't have a comparison. So if you had an overlay, if you had two maps, this is what we did before. I get what you're wanting to do and what you decided the village should be, and then Matt Mortwitz's feedback from some of us and changing it, et cetera, et cetera. But I like to see comparisons. What were we actually doing before? What is being presented now?
The blue
So,
and the red.
okay,
Red, add it up.
so, okay. So we have the map. I don't have any numbers. How many linear feet is it? Yards, miles, whatever. What is the cost difference? What are we saving? What are we saving? You're just talking about buying equipment. I wanted to know what we're saving in actual, we're talking about people, and we're talking about staff, and we're talking about salaries. So how are we saving? What is the return on investment? If we make all these changes all at once and get everybody kind of goofy, what did we say? We can say, if you could come to us and say, we're going to save $250,000 this year just by doing these small changes or big changes. But everything that I'm getting is the HOAs. I'm in an HOA, but I get plowed. Donjas Bay gets plowed. But the gentleman here, he's on River Lane. We've got a high school there. We're redoing Mequon Road with little ramps on both sides. I went to the DOT the other night. All these changes and all these upgrades, and we're not going to plow River Lane. I'm trying to, both sides and sidewalks.
We will still plow River Lane.
Plowing sidewalks, I clarify, sorry.
The equipment is easy to quantify. I'm sorry, I'm not prepared to tell you how many miles and feet tonight that we're plowing, but I can tell you from being here for 25 years and managing this, that when we have 4 inches or less, and I've talked about this with the committee, when we have 4 inches or less and we get done plowing streets, if we get done at a reasonable time in the morning, we can go out and we can clear those sidewalks by the end of the day, by the end of a business day. If we start getting 4 inches or more, or we get late into the season and there's a lot of snow on the sides of the sidewalks and we need to put blowers on, that's going to start to take us 1 to 2 days, more likely often 2 days. So when you talk about savings of time, the frequency in which we go out, which could be 20 times in a winter, it could be 15 times, it could be 30 times. It all depends on the winter. You're looking at a significant savings in time. And I look at the litany of projects that we're doing, and I'm going to talk about one with the committee next month that we're doing at the senior center right now that just kind of fell into our lap with the fire suppression situation we had last year. When I look at time and I look at staff, I look and I say, where else can I be using that staff at the moment? And those are examples in my mind. So I can't just easily quantify it, but I can give you examples of time. We'll be able to put one machine out for a half a day on this rather than two machines if we have 4 inches or less. We may go out with a blower with one machine for a day instead of 2 days. Those are personnel that we can put on other projects and complete other tasks in the village. That's a benefit to the village as well. So in
Okay.
addition to the budgetary savings, you've got staffing savings as well.
Okay, so I look at this year as actually snow events are not yet done. In other words, we could have snow in April. We have had snow in May. So we're not even through the season. And I seriously think we have time. I would like to see some numbers. And you probably have all your staffing and overtime or what you needed to plow sidewalks within your charts and things like that, or you can get it from HR. I would like to know, because there are municipalities that plow. I am not for plowing any other sidewalks.
What can you spell?
Mequon plows sidewalks.
No,
No,
no, just a little by their business district,
well, they have a business district, so they do
condos, not.
that. Well, we don't have condos, really, not too many.
They don't do what we do. We all looked into that months ago.
Right, but we're in the 11th hour here, and you want to move this forward, and I don't have any numbers, and I don't feel comfortable with that.
If I may respond to that, I don't know what kind of numbers you're looking for when it comes to time. You're
Savings.
looking for an hourly rate times blank, because, I mean, that's part of it, the time. But the bigger part of this, we don't have the plow. I mean, we are not going to
Wait.
have the plow. When what we have is, what are we using now? It's limping through the year essentially?
Using a sidewalk tractor that
Yeah.
was at the end of its life cycle.
So we have to
and
come up with $172,000 if we buy the small one. If we buy the big one, it's going to be 200 and what was it, $70,000, which is money we don't have. And let me just put this out there, just as a thought starter. That's 200. What else would you use that equipment for besides plowing those specific
The
sidewalks?
$50,000 tractor would pretty much sit most of the summer. It's used just for the sidewalks in the winter on Main
Yeah,
Street.
all taxpayers are paying for that in their taxes. Whether you shovel your own snow or whether like Rick with his mom's property, they do their own, and we're all paying for that piece of equipment that's used very limited on what you're seeing on the map. And I take that into account too. So I mean, just a thought starter. Rick?
There was a memorandum last year when we started this thing from Matt and opinion and all that stuff. And the savings was, prime example is approximately $70,000 of Germantown spending on sidewalk repair on Main Street this summer. Hold on, sorry. But there was the piece of equipment. And then as far as labor costs go, he said currently clearing sidewalks can take between 16 and 48 labor hours. As the sidewalk network grows, so will the obligation. There may be a point where additional seasonal help is needed. So if you're saying we can do it with one piece of equipment in one day or a half a day,
So
we're cutting that down basically
15
to
to
4
48
to
hours
6
is exactly
hours.
what I just said. It's one day. If it's 4 inches or less, it's about 1 day or less with two machines going out. It's 2 days, 4 inches or over with a blower. We will reduce that because we'll only put one machine out for each one if we can adopt the map that's before us today.
Projected cost of the replacement for all three machines is approximately $1 million over the next 10 years. If the sidewalk network continues to expand, we'll be forced to add a fourth machine, increasing that future obligation to 1.4 million. We have all the numbers. We had all the numbers a year ago when this came up and we changed the ordinance.
Bob?
There's a reason why communities don't do this, because it costs money, it takes time. And there's issues too, it's not just the plowing of the sidewalks. You get into issues where you're tearing up sod, and there's costs for that to come back in the spring to repair all of that, and people are upset about that. So it's a cost and a labor savings, and that's why other communities don't do it. And I'd rather spend that money and that labor on areas that require, like snow plowing, for example, spend your time on that, on these high, issues that could, well, like if you don't plow the roads in time because you're doing sidewalks, that's a safety issue right there. So I'd rather spend this time and labor on more important items and kind of fit in with the fold with all the other communities in this state.
Jan?
So my question is, why are these little red marks up by Holy Hill?
Because we would be the landowner there. We're the adjacent landowner. Holy Hill, you're talking up by.
So you're going to
High
run,
Point Pass.
yep, High Point Pass. So this park is not even open, is it?
The village still owns the parcels and the retention area, I believe.
So we're going to plow where there's no foot traffic.
I'm not saying that operationally we would go there and plow. This map is a representation of where the village is the adjacent landowner. So as that develops, when it needs to happen, we will go up and plow that.
So you're saying you're going to be plowing the sidewalk up there according to this map?
When it develops, he said.
According to the map, we're showing that we're the adjacent landowner and that we would be responsible for plowing there when it needs to take place, would be the better way to say it.
Well, let's face it, this map is dynamic, right? Things develop, things are going to change, and we'll react accordingly. So let's not nitpick each little color here. Let's just start with this, move it forward to the village board, and
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the snow removal map as shown in our handouts.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
One in opposition.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Moving on to B, contract with Dan Larson Landscaping for spring tree planting for an amount not to exceed $27,866.
All right. This should be a relatively routine topic for the committee. Each year, we plant trees around the village. This year, we are tackling the map that is shown in the comprehensive tree plan is year 3. We went out for bid to 7 different contractors. The prices are listed here for your review. And we are recommending the planting with Dan Larson in the amount of $27,866. Just a quick note, that's for 2026, that was capital borrowing. So you'll see that number reflected there as well. Couple highlights, I guess I'd like to point out, the price per tree, the average price per tree actually went down this year from $325 to $306. So that was a great thing. We've been making progress slowly over the last several years, closing our sites. Last year we were at 306. This year we're at 229. So we had a 5-year plan in the comprehensive tree plan to get caught up. And then after that, it really should just be a matter of looking at the trees that are lost in a year from storm damage, vehicle damage, disease, and other things like that. And hopefully it's a little bit more manageable to stay on top of.
Committee?
I would-
Why don't we just get a motion first like we're supposed to?
I would respectfully like to make a motion. I think Scott is aware that we have our first tree advisory board meeting tomorrow night. We couldn't get it in before this. I didn't know this was.
I'd like to entertain a motion and then we can have discussion.
Mm,
I'll make a motion to recommend contracting with Dan Larson Landscaping in the amount not to exceed $27,866.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion? Jan?
I'd like to make a recommendation that we get the tree advisory board gets to review just the trees and the map that you've presented here tomorrow night. We can pass this, but I'd like to go over the tree selection.
This has to go to village board approval.
It does have to go to village board approval.
So-
Oh,
We can approve the amount tonight. You can still review the map, and then at village board, we can vet it out.
Yeah, and I guess I would just make a couple points. The trees are a finite thing this time of year as contractors are getting going with spring planting. They're trying to go purchase. Dan Larson is trying to purchase now already, and we've told him like, hey, let's just wait until we get all the final approvals.
Yeah.
But you know, the spring window, we want to make sure that we're not missing out on our tree selection. So delaying this certainly could do that.
we don't,
Again, I guess, yes, we are going to have our tree board meeting. Looking forward to it. We have a plan that was approved by the board. We're following that plan, and I really would recommend trying to get this project done.
I'm not delaying the project. I'm just reviewing.
Okay, any further discussion? Bob?
We used Dan Larson before.
He's done it the last 3 years.
Okay.
How does he get the trees so reasonably?
And did they, what kind of inch diameter are those trees?
They're usually
2 or 3.
2 to 2.5 is what the spec calls out for.
Okay.
There are times where if we can't get a species, maybe we'll get something a little younger and we'll make an exception to that. But typically they're 2 to 2.5.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, it's quite a range.
It is
in
a
pricing there.
very large range.
Interesting. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Moving on, purchasing streetlight fixtures from Gray Bar for an amount not to exceed $112,226.58.
This was another improvement project that we brought forth in the 2026 budget. We had discussion about some of the LED failures that we were seeing in our lighting, street lighting around the village. You may recall that we did a wholesale replacement about 18 years ago with lighting fixtures, and then roughly about a decade ago, we upgraded those from high pressure sodium or metal halide to LED. We are seeing LED failures. If anybody travels Landon Road, I've been watching 2 flashing like the disco out there for the last couple weeks, and just kind of wanted to see where this project was going to land before we went out to fix them. But yeah, we are having those problems around town. We budgeted $114,000 in the capital budget. That would replace 134 Cobra heads and 81 shoebox fixtures along many of our main thoroughfares, including County Line Road, Appleton Avenue, Landon, Pilgrim, River Lane, and the Maple Road Industrial Park. In addition to the time savings for staff running around repairing these outages, I guess I'd also like to highlight that the LED lighting that we're going to be upgrading to probably has a better photometric pattern than the retrofit we used, which will also bring some safety improvements to a lot of those main intersections that are along those thoroughfares. We did go with Gray Bar. I guess I'll elaborate on that just a little bit. When you start to deal with a company, they go to the manufacturer's representative. So we're looking at Cooper and Holophane fixtures out here. So the Gray Bar Electric, being that they were working with the village from the very start on this, they get pricing protection from the manufacturer's rep. So basically what that means is that everybody else's cost, if we went to another distributor, everybody else's cost is going to be the price that Gray Bar is selling them to us for. So that's why you're only seeing the one price here. It's the best price that the village is going to see on this project. So we're recommending Gray Bar for $112,226.58. And again, you see the capital account number at the bottom.
Committee? Jan?
Do we have a motion yet?
No, we don't.
Okay, I'll move to approve the purchasing of street lighting fixtures from Gray Bar for the amount not to exceed $112,266.58.
Second.
Jan?
And Scott, can you give a timeline on this? When can you get these outages fixed?
Yeah, I would think that if we get this past board and get it ordered this month, that we'll have the fixtures in about 6 to 8 weeks. And that's a project that we've already got in our queue lined up for the summer. That will be a self-installation with our own staff, doing that work as we go. I would like to think that
Could
by
you have it?
middle of summer, hopefully we've
Oh,
got them all done.
I was hoping if it was closer to downtown or something, 4th of July, I was just wondering if there were any outages in that
There
area.
aren't any in that area. And again, spring and fall, we check outages in all
Okay.
streetlights of all areas.
Okay. Are all of the streetlights LED now?
Yes, every fixture we have is at least a retrofit LED.
Okay. Thank you.
Bob?
Scott, if you go to the intersection of Wasaki and Mequon Road, you get some beautiful purple color streetlights. And now my experience of these purple lights that showed up on DOT projects on the freeway. And the vendor admitted that was a mistake, but it still provides the correct intensity, the lumens that they needed. So DOT said, okay, we'll leave them in, but you're going to have to provide an extended warranty for it. We're not getting purple lights, are we?
You know, it's funny, I heard that same story and I also heard that that was a manufacturing mistake. No, I would be very disappointed if purple lights showed up here. I'm hoping they're going to be nice and clear and bright.
Okay, they're white-ish.
They are white.
I mean,
yes. Yeah.
the residents won't really notice anything.
Yeah. And I think we talked about this during the budget process. The fixtures that we're going with, there is one on the southwest corner of Western and Mequon right now. And there's also one on the corner of Pilgrim and Mequon. So if anybody's interested in seeing them, we've got some demos that we've been kind of watching out there.
Okay, thank you.
So is that fixture on Wasaki and Mequon, is that the state? Or is it ours?
That is not ours. Yeah, be the DOT, Wasaki
Yeah.
and Mequon.
Check it out, it's real purple.
I have to go by
But you
at
have to
night.
play Purple Rain.
Further discussion?
Yeah, just a question, Scott, is this the fixture, only the fixture, the poles are okay? All the wiring to them is all
Yep.
good?
We'll check the wiring when we're doing the project and look and see, and if there are random poles that need work, that would just come out of our operating budget.
Yeah,
But generally speaking, the
under
poles,
repairs and all that.
yeah, the poles are okay in this project. Moving forward for future budgets, I do have another area that I'd like to talk to the board about. And that one might be a little bit different with some more pole work added to it as well, but that's something for another day.
Great, thanks.
Do we have a motion? Second, any further discussion? Favor? Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to development handbook for discussion only.
Good evening. Kevin Driscoll, village engineer. Staff is presenting this item tonight with the potential language attached for consideration to amend the development handbook. Staff plans to bring additional updates in the future, but is seeking clarification on this item as it relates to a pending site development along Division Road. So staff's researched the section of this acceleration, deceleration bypass lanes as it's outlined in the packet. And based on this, staff drafted language to update the requirements that the acceleration, deceleration, and bypass lanes will be based on a traffic impact analysis completed by a professional traffic operations engineer. And this clarification in the development handbook on page 45 of the packet, it would help bring clarification for the next planning commission meeting for that site development. So staff's bringing this as a discussion item. We're ultimately being able to get direction on moving forward with it as potentially presented in the packet. On that page 45, that's the drafted language.
It sounds like one for you.
Well, I reached out to Taddy, guys who did the traffic report on this, and using the development, this particular road on Division. They said if we just followed our rules, our rules in the handbook, and told the developer to put in bypass lanes, it would actually be more of a safety hazard than trying to make it safer. And the reason being is that most of the turns, and there's only 5 turns per hour, heading northbound to go left, that's why you have a bypass lane so cars can get around. The problem is that the bypass lane overlaps or blends into the road that's going into Village Hall. So now that's always a problem, cars that are over to the right on a bypass lane and cars that are maybe coming out of Village Hall, you nose out, and that's where you get a conflict there. So it's really not accomplishing anything to just follow what our handbook is saying. I agree 100% that we should have a traffic engineer make that recommendation if decel, XL, and bypass lanes are required, because there's so many different variables. There's speed, there's sight distance, there's turning movements, there's volumes. And to just have a quick snippet in our traffic report, that doesn't serve justice. It makes a potential developer spend more money than he really has to without really gaining any safety from it. So certainly change the wording. I thought it was okay, the wording that you had to require a traffic study on it. So, and in this particular instance too, we shouldn't require the developer to do that on Division.
Dan, did you have a comment? You look like you have a comment.
Well, this is not my forte, but I was just wondering about the code numbers you had referred to 8.065 and then 8.06. Is it the same thing?
That would be the next item on the agenda.
Oh, sorry, I got ahead of myself.
5.1.12 is the development handbook section.
Okay. And when you're talking about developer, is this only in the case where the road is in front of the new development? Is that what you're saying?
I think one example along the Division Road corridor would be the Heritage Park North, where there was bypass and acceleration deceleration lanes constructed most recently there, which
Yeah.
fits with the nature of the corridor
Okay.
for other subdivision access. So that's where that was the standard based on this drawing and that language in the development handbook.
Okay.
So in response to the letter that we received after meeting with the site developer,
Yeah.
that's where we wanted to bring that to your attention and bring it forward, that there was a request basically to vary from what's prescribed in the development handbook. And, from staff's recommendation is, this is what's in the development handbook, that's what needs to be followed. So taking it a more nuanced approach as opposed to it just being in black and white, where some municipalities around Germantown say, like for Mequon, any new development, you're going to have to put in a Excel decel bypass lane where you have a connection. And then in other municipalities, it's based on volumes and speeds as well.
Sure.
So that's where we were trying to do something that makes sense with respect to the proposed development, and by having a traffic impact analysis with those recommendations based on the turning movements, that's ultimately where we landed on this.
So in the case that Trustee Warren was talking about, isn't that by the
Church.
south of the church. Okay, but what about on the opposite side? Going north, like northbound on
Well,
Division?
that's where the bypass would be proposed because you're
Right.
going north and you want to turn left.
Microphone isn't on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh,
You're heading north and you want to turn left. That's where
Oh.
most of the movements and conflicts are. Because you have to wait for opposing traffic to clear. So that's where, that's where a bypass would benefit, but because of the speeds and the number of left-hand turns,
turns.
the benefit,
Yeah.
the safety benefit you get is not much at all, and it actually creates more of a hazard because you run into the driveway at Village Hall.
Right. But then does it have to do with the traffic that is coming from the north?
It's all traffic, both
Right,
directions.
both directions.
Left turn.
And we don't have all that information
TIA did a traffic study.
Yes.
on that
Yes.
for the north,
In
fro-
your-
from coming from the north to the
yeah,
south
in your
as well.
packet, there's an exhibit from Taddy,
Okay,
and they're hard to
looked at it.
understand if.
Yeah,
not
I
first,
know.
but it shows arrows going this way, and it's got numbers, and it's
yep.
average daily projected traffic and that.
Okay,
But I talked to the author of the report to get a better feel for it.
so they're recommending this is good language?
Well, I have just one minor comment on your language for consideration. Where you consider section 5.1.12.1 says any roadway intersecting with a collector or arterial street and or a site development with a projected ADT greater than 100, that's all good, shall require a traffic impact analysis to evaluate and design acceleration. I would just suggest shall require a traffic impact analysis to evaluate the need for for acceleration, deceleration, bypass lanes based on da 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 da. Instead of just talking about design right away, just evaluate the need for putting in by acceleration lanes and bypass lanes. I take the design out of that at that point.
Sure, that makes sense.
Okay,
I appreciate that.
all right, thank you.
that- You're welcome.
Yeah, my only comment is that it makes sense to me that instead of a one size fits all, that you look at it at a case by case basis. And this is a prime example of something that would maybe be detrimental instead. So, yeah, I think this is a good change.
Now, it says this is for discussion only, so do you need a vote on this? It just, on the agenda, it says discussion. Well, then on the actual thing here, it says, it looks like it's looking for a recommendation,
So,
but it's not,
my-
it's just discussion only.
yeah, my intent was to discuss the language and if
Perfect.
there's amendments to the language, just like
So you're good
Trustee
then.
Warren
This
was
is good.
suggesting, yeah, then we
Perfect.
can bring back revisions in a bigger amendment, that staff has additional draft revisions to the development handbook, and we would bring those all together collectively.
Oh,
But this would allow us to follow back up with the site development, the site developer. And so they're able to move forward with meeting their anticipated plan commission deadlines.
So Kevin, you're good with where you're,
Yes.
we're at.
This is
perfect.
good. Yes, thank you.
Okay, so we will move on then to E, Telecom Consultant RFP Award.
So item E with the consultant services, and then item F for the telecom agreements, those items are coupled together. And whether or not we consider one in advance of the other, ultimately, I think would be recommended and adopted. What I'm trying to say is the agreements should be established, I believe, before a consultant is awarded a contract for services. So it's just the
So would
order
you
in which,
like to take F first?
I think so, yes.
Okay, I think that's, you know,
I'll make a
Okay.
motion to move item F before item E.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none. Okay, F.
All right, thank you for that adjustment. So in response to fiber optic telecommunications outreach, for expansive installations, staff has worked with the village attorney and each utility to draft an agreement language to recover costs. Again, given the expansive scope of this work. I have exhibits that I'll hand out in just a moment that show that beyond what's in the packet. These agreements are in your packet for your review and discussion with potential action to direct staff to enter into agreements with their respective utilities to recover costs contingent on the village attorney's review. So I'll just give you these. This is some additional information.
Thank you.
Font's a little small.
You can't read that? I can read that.
So in
Very
the
yellow.
packet, there was an exhibit and then that showed an initial map. But since the packet's been received, there's been clarification on the hotline requests that we've received. And that's what I just handed to you. Those areas in yellow are the hotline requests. So it's expansive along County Line Road.
Oh, I see. I thought, I wasn't even thinking about Digger's Hotline. For those of us who don't need to say Digger's Hotline.
Digger's Hotline, yeah, sorry, yeah. So there's just a lot of ground to cover on this. So the intent of this agreement is to recover staff's cost, because if staff focused on this, we wouldn't be able to do the work that the village board has budgeted for public works staff to complete.
Wait, let's,
The yellow.
So all the yellow, oh yeah.
What Digger's hotline, what they're
Your
asking Digger's
microphone.
Hotline to mark.
the bright yellow, right? The 4 chunks of bright yellow.
There's
Microphone.
there's the 2 different shades of yellow for the 2 different utilities.
Oh,
Okay. So these
they
long yellows are also like that would be another one. So everything that's outlined in red, that's yellow. Okay, that's a lot.
I'm gonna love you.
whoa.
So there's over 100 miles of fiber optic installation that's potentially anticipated.
And this starts
When-
this summer, correct?
Following entering into agreement for staff to recover costs, and then we're also looking at hiring a consultant to be able to do the permit reviews and on-site inspections.
And the fiber optic companies know we're doing this, correct? That
Correct,
they're gonna get these charges and the approximate amount.
correct,
Okay,
right.
sounds good to me. Anyway, committee, need a motion for this one.
Wow. We're on, yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion to recommend approval to the village board to enter into agreement with the respective utility companies that allows the village to pass through costs of consultant permit reviews and inspection services contingent upon final review by the village attorney. Is that right?
I'll second.
Second.
Okay.
I will second.
Discussion.
I mean, this makes sense. They should pay for
We're-
the
yeah.
cost of this and, yeah, I mean, that's a lot of inspection
Yeah.
Yes,
oversight.
there's been discussions since November and December of 2025 with the respective utilities, and they both agreed to reimburse the municipality to recover the costs at 100%. So
Oh,
we just want to get that documented in writing to be able to move forward.
Okay, I just had a quick question about paying them and then getting the reimbursement. Are you going to have separate line items? There's 2 telecommunication companies, correct? Is that right?
Correct. Yes, those details haven't been fully established.
Yeah, how to collect and
And as part of these agreements, that's the first step. The village has escrow accounts for
Okay.
existing ongoing utility permits with We Energies
okay,
and AT&T for their
Okay.
frequent road cuts. So that's one mechanism that may allow the village to go against an existing account as
Sure.
opposed to paying out of pocket and then waiting for a reimbursement.
yeah, we don't want to. Okay, that's smart. Thank you for that.
Bob?
So we used examples, other agreements where this has been done before, which then our attorney have reviewed it, and that's what we're looking at here.
Correct. Yes.
Can, can, create this from scratch. Looks like we're not the first ones to be going through that, so you've got this agreement going.
Yes. The village attorney reviewed this agreement that was provided to us.
Okay, so that's all well and good, and recouping that is good. Just kind of a sidebar question, when the big deal was cellular towers going in, and the push was to share space on that with the different companies, just to save everybody putting up a tower and stuff and being redundant. Does that apply here? I mean, if this one telecom company is burying a fiber optic along wherever, Pilgrim or whatever, does the other telecom company come through and also bury their own fiber optic along that same corridor? Or are they splitting the efforts and, okay, company X, you do this stretch and we'll do, company Y will do this stretch? Are they, do you know enough about how they're approaching that?
I believe they're independent and would have their facilities installed independently of one another.
In what? I'm sorry.
They would each have their own construction in separate alignments.
So you're gonna have multiple work through the same corridor because each one, like you say, is a separate entity.
That's what I would anticipate, where the one fiber optic telecommunications company is establishing a ring from Pewaukee and Brookfield through Menominee Falls up into Germantown. And they've had experience in the Fox Valley and in the Gurnee, Illinois area as well, where they're looking to put in a fiber optic ring and then fill in with customers. Then there's a second utility that currently has copper for their internet broadband system, and they're looking to upgrade to fiber. So it would be replacing that copper, which is established in a lot of the subdivisions. So that's the difference in that exhibit, where there's the ring versus the subdivisions. So
Wow.
there's going to be a lot of proposed utility work. So trying to get a framework to be able to be responsive
Plan.
is where we're trying to go with it, because in the past, the ordinance that we've been following is based on a road cut and a cut fee, and that doesn't quite line up with the scale or scope of this
Mhm.
telecommunications.
A lot of extra work, and Digger's Hotline, holy cow, multiple remarking and stuff for each company along that corridor. That's where you're gonna need a good work plan. They gotta stage this and phase this. So here's a personal question for you. Last year, I may have mentioned this, we went through this with AT&T. They sent us a nice little letter saying that after this date, we will no longer support copper. So we'll put in fiber optics. We're putting the mainline fiber optics in, and we'll run a lateral to your house at no charge. But after this date, we will not support copper. So in our neighborhood along Juniper Drive, AT&T has already gone through and laid fiber optic. So, and I don't know what other areas they did. I can just speak to my backyard. But now are these two will be coming through again? I suppose,
Not in your subdivision, because that work was essentially completed already
completed by,
by AT&T.
okay,
So-
so these independent companies won't put it in where there's already a competitor who put in fiber optic, you're saying?
So just to clarify,
Yeah,
so AT&T was one company that you're referring to putting the fiber optic to replace the copper.
right.
So they have additional plans to do that going forward in other subdivisions that are identified in the packet item and on the exhibit that I handed you tonight. So AT&T is one of the companies looking to do about 2 miles worth
Okay.
of fiber optic. Given that they're requesting permits at the same time this other fiber optic telecommunications company is requesting permits per discussion with the village attorney on recovering costs for the scope of the work. That's where we're looking at entering into these agreements, which is a little bit of a different structure than the village had operated under for these road cuts and permits.
So you said, I'm just trying to get a handle on the big picture. So you said there's two companies though, right?
AT&T and Metronet.
Oh, so AT&T is one of them.
What's the second one?
Metronet, T-Mobile, it's listed in the agreement
So
as
that's
the
so the
exhibit in the packet.
two contracts would be with AT&T and the other.
The agreements, yeah.
Okay, all right, thanks.
So just a comment, yeah, each one of these has their own fiber line, and part of that is for redundancy. So businesses typically, like my office, has two different lines coming in for redundancy. And so if one is cut, the other one is still active. And that's why a lot of times people put in their own lines.
Unless they're in the same trench.
Unless they're in the same trench, exactly, and they're
I
close
see.
enough.
How deep do they bury these things?
Yeah, they're typically shallower than storm sewer. So like 3 feet of cover.
Deep.
Yeah. And how big are the fiber optic cables?
Maybe a 2-inch diameter.
2 inches? Okay, I'm just curious.
They carry a lot of data.
Yeah. Any further discussion? Okay. Do we have a motion on this?
We do.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now we'll move, it's unanimous. We'll move back to E, Telecom Consultant RFP Award.
So following entering into agreements with the respective telecommunications companies, staff would seek to enter into agreements with the consultants for services to inspect and review permits. This is in response to the fiber optic companies' requests where staff recognizes that the demand exceeds the capacity of the municipal employees and has requested proposals from consulting firms. 2 firms out of the 5 that responded had direct relevant fiber optic permit review and inspection services experience. And Rupert and Milky had the most, and staff recommends moving forward with Rupert and Milky. Clark Dietz was also included in the packet. At the time of publishing the packet, it wasn't clear to me the extent of their experience, where Rupert and Milky has over 1,100 miles of experience. Clark Dietz has 72 miles.
Why are they so much more twice the price of Rupert Milky?
It's in proportion to the hours.
They think it would take twice as much time as Rupert Milky.
They don't have the experience.
That's why.
That's interesting because they're all guessing then?
They make assumptions. That's what happened. You get a
Yeah.
really scope. Cover themselves, they have to build contingency into it, and that's why you see the difference. So what you should really look at is the hourly rates, how they work out. And R&M and Clark Dietz are about pretty much the same hourly rate. And what really skews it is the extra time that Clark Dietz is building into it. I personally think Clark Dietz is a better fit for this based upon the information that they provided.
Right.
And what really caught my attention with Clark Dietz, and you will like this, Trustee Miller,
Yes, I will.
is their focus on, I thought they went above and beyond on public involvement
Right.
on this. They're talking about, for the public outreach, updates on responses to resident complaints, door hangers, dedicated phone numbers, tracking residents' complaints and that.
We need that.
And well, I see that and I interpret that as, that's one less issue I have to deal with or get phone calls from.
Or,
sure.
or you, or the
Yeah.
clerk's office,
So
right, Kevin?
I don't know how many miles, but they sure had a good portfolio on what they've done and who's out there now. They're currently working on it. The other thing that weighs into it is that we're looking at an agenda item for R&M for the lift stations of $532,000 already just for that. So that's part of the reason I like to give Clark Dietz a shot at this, mainly because I like the way they're approaching it. And to me, they sold me on their talents, their construction inspection, how they're managing the public in that. And that's what I really like to see.
Yeah, they had a much deeper presentation in the packet.
I'm still stuck on it being twice the number of hours. And if we really don't know how long it's going to take and we're throwing darts at a board, how come everybody's throwing fewer darts? I mean, that
It's the
doesn't,
same.
but I'm just saying, is that firm, the number of hours that they have on here? Or is that something that's potentially negotiable? Because $360,000 is a
Well,
lot.
It's a time and material. It's not a lump sum
Yeah.
contract. So,
So their estimate, it's an estimate is what I'm asking.
right. The other,
Not to exceed.
yes, the
Okay.
other consultant could easily get up just as many hours. It's gonna, they'll charge you for what it takes to do it.
They're basically the same hourly rate.
The hourly rate's about,
So
yeah.
whatever we accumulate to get the job done, that's.
However, if we approve Clark Dietz for
Yes.
2,400 hours, $360,000, are we tied to that number?
So not to exceed.
Or is that, it's a not to exceed, but we know that they're not gonna like, oh, let's just do half of that.
I think
I
in the context of structuring the account, the not to exceed amount would be established, and in the event that were to be approached, then we'd be revisiting and requesting an increase in that amount. If we are to approach 165,000 or 360,000, then we would, as we're approaching that number, we'd be coming back to Public Works Highways Committee to request consideration for an increase, given the projection of, an amount exceeding what has previously been authorized. But to the point of it being on a time and materials basis, I think that's the emphasis is they're both, Clark Dietz and Rupert and Milky are both comparable in the hourly rate. So that should be something that I would expect or anticipate the utilities would not have as much pushback on, because those reimbursement costs are going to be somewhat equivalent per hour. But it's the how much is necessary versus what's nice. And we've discussed communication and outreach as being necessary, so village staff isn't receiving complaints and having to deal with a whole bunch. I reached out to, if I may add, to the references for both Clark Dietz and Rupert and Milky, and there were glowing references for both. So I feel comfortable moving forward with either.
For
It's
this
just-
specific type of work.
for this specific type
Okay.
of work. It's
Yeah,
just
and-
the amount of experience that Rupert and Milky has on this. They have a lot of familiarity with working through this.
It's not a trick, but when you're preparing proposals, you can come in low and have all of these conditions and provisions, but still your low price really looks good to people like us sitting behind the dais. But, you got to look beyond the hours, especially on this, because this is such a loose scope on this thing. And we still have control, and I wouldn't be surprised to see R&M possibly even get up to more hours than what Clark Dietz is showing, because nobody knows what's going to happen on this.
Or
So
it
I,
could- But then it could be less if nobody knows. I mean, these other three firms are way under all those numbers.
all of the firms could be less than what the estimate. It
Yeah.
depends how the scope plays out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they don't look at the number 360 and say, oh, gee, I know how long this job's going to take. That's what I would do.
No, this is just reading through it in my experience in scoping engineering and stuff like that.
But
This is
Don't worry about
so
it.
loose. It's really hard to get your arms
Yeah.
around this. And I feel comfortable because of the way the financing is structured. It's a time and material, and I'm sure our staff is very good at monitoring that, making sure it doesn't get crazy.
I just had another question. Kevin, you picked the two, Rupert and Milky and Clark and Dietz, and they have the highest hourly rate. But we have experience with these two companies. Is that what we're saying, basically?
I've worked with Clark Dietz in capacity at a
Okay.
different employer.
Yep.
And they've been good to work with. And my experience with Ruckert and Milky here, in
Yep.
addition to my experience, previous employers has been good. So
Okay.
I'd feel comfortable working with either or both if the direction is, Clark Dietz has a smaller amount and Clark Dietz is responsible for the smaller permit reviews, and Ruckert and Milky has experience with a larger amount, and Ruckert and Milky is responsible for the larger permit review. That's another approach. So it's going to be a time and materials approach where we're recovering those costs that are incurred.
Okay. I agree with trustee Warren that it'd be with their communication, and Rupert and Milky will be doing, it sounds like, both the lift stations. Let's make sure somebody can focus on this and the communication.
Total disclosure. Okay.
Oh,
Their Clark Dietz client liaison is Mustafa Amir,
mm-hmm.
and I used to work with him at Bonastro. I haven't seen him since then, but I used to work with him. That was quite a while ago.
Over 20 years.
I will not profit from C&D being selected for this. But I know, I mentioned that because he is a top-notch, great he's in a great role. here. I don't know if you know him or you work with him.
Yes, I've worked with him on a water utility extension project.
I think you may share the same sentiments that he's a top-notch professional and a good guy, and I think it's a great fit for them. So that's another positive in my mind, seeing him.
Do we need a motion?
We do, but I have one more question. Actually, a comment. If we knew that we wanted a firm that had this specific experience, why did we throw out a broad RFP and all these people put all that work in and came in at lower prices, and we don't want them and we never did? Just a question.
So through the course of work in the civil engineering industry, municipal engineering firms reach out and say, hey, what kind of work do you have coming up? What kind of, we're interested in helping you out. So there's the discussion of, hey, there's this anticipated inspection services that we have. Are you interested in that? And they would say yes. Okay, well, we can send this RFP to you. So that's how this list came to be, where there's firms that reached out to DPW engineering staff and said, hey, we're interested in providing consulting services to the village of Germantown. What opportunities do you have? So this was one we were anticipating, and whether or not it was specific to fiber optic installation or if it was construction inspection services in general for roads and sewers and water and drainage, that wasn't necessarily differentiated, other than we'd like to help the village by offering our consulting, permit review, and inspection services. So that's why this list was longer than just 2. That only after their proposals were submitted, we understood the level of experience they had with fiber optic installations.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to select Clark Dietz to provide, get this right here. Let's see. I'm getting there. Entering into a consultant agreement with Clark Dietz to provide permit review, site inspection, and those costs will pass through and be reimbursed by the fiber optic companies.
Second.
Further discussion. You probably had it, Rick.
Yeah, just a question. So the hours here, the estimated hours are just all over the place. We're now selecting one of the higher rate per hours, but since this is a pass through, how do we control this so that they don't pad the bill. You know, how is this going to be controlled so that we want to work with the fiber companies, but we don't want to gouge them?
Right. So we'll start off with a small permit to begin with. So both the fiber optic company and the village are comfortable with the services being provided before we increase the scope of the larger areas. So that way the fiber optic companies aren't saying, hey, we'll slow down. That's way too much. That's not what we agreed to. So it's going to be a coordinated effort for having a series of meetings, a pre-construction meeting, and we're anticipating potentially two calls a week to get started with, in addition to a weekly meeting, just to get on track for the first month.
So it's going to be refined as you go through this, and the fiber optic company or the person, whoever's laying it, will understand what's needed or what they believe is needed in inspection hours. Is that?
Right, right. So working through the agreement that was in the previous item, that's where we're looking to establish the fees, because this municipality hasn't gone through this before. So we can't say, this is the fee amount that, per permit or per project area. So that's why we're looking at it on a time and materials basis, and coordinating and collaborating with the permit applicant.
Okay. I've got it. I tend to agree. I mean, the estimated hours really are irrelevant because we just don't know. And now we're picking one of the higher per hour rates, but that sounds like these are the two firms that have experience in that field. Is that what I'm gathering here? But
Like,
Yes,
and
and they had glowing recommendations.
I'm surprised that there's firms now already gaining that experience. It's a new world, that type of experience. That was never in my vocabulary when I was out there.
Yeah.
So to see the two firms with that experience and that, it's like, this is the way of the world now.
What type of inspection, Bob, would they actually do?
I think what's really more important is the work plan. They'll sit down with the work plan so you can manage budget and labor time and know where they're going to be. And it doesn't make sense if they're going to be here, they're not going to be jumping all over the place, so they can manage the project. Actual construction, we're going from point A to point B, and they'll probably be boring a lot of it where they don't have to dig a trench, put through here, make sure the easements are in place. They got to be within easements and coordinate with the residents or property owners that they're going through. I see that as part of their role also, to make sure those things are in place before they really get to the actual construction of it. The construction itself isn't that complicated. Once you clear the corridor from existing utilities,
it's horizontal.
it's pretty much just blow and go, once you're there. But just to get there, getting all the permits in place and the coordinate, that's what takes the time. Yeah.
Further discussion?
So this was associated with E. And you had the packet.
Yes, that's correct.
And it identifies, sorry.
I think this was updated.
It was
This-
the
this is-
updated one is the one you should be looking at.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
But
you see
this
it?
has all the subdivisions on it.
Okay.
Thanks. That I can read.
Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Moving on to G, consideration of award of contract to Rupert Melke for consultant services to improve Main Street Lift Station and Old Farm Lift Station, not to exceed $532,659.
So staff sent RFPs out to 8 different engineering firms for this project. We received responses from 4. 3 of them backed out, and 1 of them partnered with one of the ones listed here. If you recall, the main driver of this was the expansion of the sewer service area to accommodate Richfield and other areas of the village. Triggered the necessity for a facilities plan overall for the village with the Wisconsin DNR and Sewer PAC. Those studies were completed. by Rupert and Milky in 2024. And out of that facilities plan for the overall collection system came a facilities plan necessity for addressing capacity issues at Main Street and Old Farm lift stations, which was completed in 2025. The village board approved the budget in the amount of $660,000 for consultant services for this project. And Rupert and Milky came in at our low bid at $532,659. In the review of the proposals that were submitted to the village, Kevin and I sat down, and some of the other consultants that were not recommending had a few out of the box type approaches. One of them was to investigate 2 parallel force mains of smaller diameter. So in the case of Old Farm, we'd be looking at 2 brand new 20-inch PVC force mains instead of reusing the existing 20-inch ductile iron force main and then installing a brand new 30-inch. And one of the other consultants also proposed using a below ground comminution chamber with a bypass channel that would eliminate the need for upwards of $2 million at each location for a screenings building, which would end up being 2-story to get the material from 25 feet below grade up to the top, which would require electricity, ventilation, full code compliance for Class 1, Div 1. And instead of reusing the 40-year-old pumps that are in existence, replace the pumps at both sites with brand new dry pit submersibles, presumably from Flight with N impellers, which are, the impeller is designed to pass a lot of the rags that we're having issues with. And so we feel that comminution to 1/2 inch to 3/8 size material, along with the open style impeller of new pumps, would almost all but eliminate the ragging issues we're getting at those 2 pump stations. And another thing we wanted to reflect in the design study report is the need for a future facilities plan, probably around the 2075, after all of us in this room are dust in the wind. We want to make sure that it's memorialized that somewhere in the future, somebody is looking at potential of deep interceptor sewers to put the entire village on a gravity system to Milwaukee, when the life cycle of these upgrades necessitate the need to replace Main Street and Old Farm in their entirety. So it just kind of makes sense in that future to look at those kind of ideas as microtunneling gets cheaper. So our recommendation tonight is to award professional services agreement to Rupert and Milky in the amount not to exceed $532,659.
Ready?
So I want to talk about this dust in the wind thing. So you mentioned these 2 other options where you rejected the proposals. It sounds like because you determined that the other options, a smaller, 2 smaller pipes instead of salvaging the other one, that was a non-starter for you guys?
Well, we like that concept, but we didn't necessarily like some of the other stuff in their proposals,
Okay.
which you can see by their dollar amount that they're almost double of what we're getting from R&M. We do like that idea of 2 smaller parallel force mains. It would eliminate the need for a 72-inch diameter manhole to be installed, especially for Old Farm, because you're not going to get a 30 and a 20 in the same 48. The other thing too is you're planning on lining a ductile iron pipe that's almost 40 years old.
Yeah.
We've seen how ductile iron deteriorates in Germantown soils. It's very acidic. Even though it's wrapped, your groundwater that's surrounding that pipe still carries that same acidic nature. I think the main difference, you see the water mains failing quickly, is the amount of pressure that's in them. It's 80 PSI versus about 20 in a typical force main. I think the other thing too is over the short term, before we start getting some build out of Richfield, we're going to have solids deposition in that in the larger diameter pipes because we're not going to have enough flow to keep those scoured, especially, in the nighttime periods where your flows are lower. I think long-term, 2 parallels of the same diameter, all being PVC, being brand new, is going to be more cost effective because you're still going to have to come back and line those existing force mains. And I think your cost for new pipe at a smaller diameter and the cost for lining existing, knowing you're going to have to put in shafts at every angle transition to put those liners in, is going to probably be a wash.
So I don't want to steal your thunder, but you said there was some options that could save a lot of money, and I don't know if that came from one or two of the consultants you're not selecting, and Rickert and Milky can use those ideas, or where?
The main cost savings is going to be in the proposed screening buildings. Originally, we were looking at an automatic bar screen that was going to lift the rags, keep the screen clean, bring it up to the surface, press it, bag it, and then we'd have the ongoing cost of landfilling that material. Typically, you see a screening operation at the headworks of a treatment plant. We don't have that. We have a collection system. We pass any material that comes in, we pass to Milwaukee. They eventually have to screen it anyhow. What we're trying to do is get a handle on the amount of these flushable, non-flushable woven towels that are coming into the system. Your Clorox cleanup wipes, your diaper wipes, baby wipes, that's kind of thing that finds their way into the sewers, and they literally make these giant rags, these big giant mats, because they weave themselves together. When we originally looked at doing these upgrades, the village, us, my operators, myself, we wanted to put in a screenings facility where we're lifting this stuff out of the flow stream. One of the consultants suggested using an in-channel grinder, such as a Channel Monster, Muffin Monster, if you've ever heard of those. It's a comminutor with rotating knives that shreds this stuff. It passes through. The integration of the open impeller pumps would allow that stuff to pass on through. We send it down the line and keep it moving down to South Shore Treatment Plant. We did approach Rickert and Milky to add in some additional dollars to study those alternatives that the other consultants had in their proposals, and they agreed to do that.
Plus, we have a continuity with R&M. Having done the facility study, right?
Right.
So there's no ramp up or anything like that.
No, they know exactly what they're getting into. They've been working with us over the last 6 years on facilities plans and, lift station studies, because the lift station study predated the facilities plan. And a lot of the people that were involved in all those earlier studies are part of the team that'll be doing this work also.
You're obviously happy with them or they wouldn't be here. So, all right, thanks, Tim.
Question.
Go ahead, Jen.
Tim, is there a specification for these? I'm going to call it a grinder because because that's a shredder, right? Grinder pump. The grinder pump, the fragment that comes through it. Is there a specification for the size that it has to be in order for someone else to accept it down the road, down the line? I should.
No, there's no set standard as to what can or can't be passed downstream. Our local ordinance calls for it has to pass through a 1/2-inch screen. But we're talking about things that are normally found in sewage, right?
Right.
Toilet paper, you put it in water, it dissolves.
Right.
These are a new nuance that everybody is dealing with. These woven towels
Yeah,
that you cannot even rip in half. It's not like
No.
a paper towel.
I've tried.
They're
Yeah.
tough and they're durable. Your options are to remove them completely out of the waste stream at a tremendous cost. It's going to cost upwards of $2 million at each location.
Right.
Put in these screening buildings,
Yeah.
or you put in a piece of equipment that's going to disintegrate them
Right.
and allow them to pass through the waste stream.
Okay. So
That's Milwaukee's.
we should be able to save some money.
Potentially, yes. We're going to look at
Potentially.
those options.
Yeah. So you said, will they include it in this
The dollar amount that is listed in the backup is including that additional effort. And if you want to know what their additional effort was, it was $25,231.
Okay, so we're still good.
Yep, and it was critical for Kevin and I to hear from them that they can maintain the same tight timeline of getting this thing at 30, 60, and 90 so that we're hitting our milestones of being able to budget for this construction for next year as in conjunction with Division Road reconstruction. We have to have those, whatever we decide for force main, we have to get those force mains out of Division Road where they're going to be doing the reconstruction. And we gotta hit those marks in order to make that happen.
What are your marks?
27,
What are
right?
your marks for 30, 60, 90?
We have to have, I believe, I think we have that in here. So a final design study report and 30% plans and specs by May 25th of 2026. 60% plans and specifications, which should be enough for us to start wrapping our head around a budget figure going into the 2027 budget. That's July 20th.
Would that also be the time that you would, bless you,
Thank you.
go for, I don't know if grants is the right term. I thought there was some monies.
We already have that application in with the Wisconsin DNR for the clean water funding. We have to have an approved facilities plan with DNR before that'll go into consideration. We're still waiting on that facilities plan for the collection system to get approved before the lift station facilities plan will be reviewed. Both are sitting in Madison, ready to go.
And I don't want to jump around, I am, but, so that, that's a lower interest rate? Is that?
Yeah,
that-
was it, okay,
That's the whole-
not a grant, it's a lower interest rate.
It's a low interest rate with, there's some element of loan forgiveness or principal forgiveness or
okay.
something like that, potentially.
I'll entertain a motion now that we've had the discussion.
Oh. I'll make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to award the contract to Rupert and Milky for consultant services to improve Main Street Lift Station and Old Farm Lift Station, not to exceed the 500. Should we just add the 25,000?
That's part of it.
Oh, it's in. Okay, thanks. $532,659.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
Moving on to our final item, H, stormwater ordinance updates resulting from DNR MS4 audit.
Staff brings this item in response to the DNR audit regarding the DNR's comments, what I would categorize as clerical updates to Chapter 27 post-construction ordinance and the Chapter 29, the erosion control Village of Germantown Code of Ordinances, and that's to meet the DNR requirements. However, if I may add, in considering this opportunity for an ordinance amendment, if staff could offer one consideration, it would be regarding long-term maintenance agreements, where the current ordinances require new long-term maintenance agreements for new construction. For facilities that were built prior to the long-term maintenance requirement being in the ordinance, some ponds don't have long-term maintenance agreements. So trees growing in ponds, along embankments, the way the long-term maintenance agreements are currently established is if the owner doesn't do their responsibility to maintain their best management practice, which in most cases is a pond, by mowing it and keeping the trees from growing in the bottom or the sides, the village has the right to go and do that work and bill back those charges to make sure the storm sewer and storm drainage system is operating as designed and intended, as opposed to potentially having a catastrophic failure of some of these ponds in sequence that aren't being maintained. So right now, 2711 of the village ordinance has long-term maintenance agreements for new ponds, but how it could be retroactively applied to those ponds that don't that were established prior to that section of the ordinance. I wonder how we could address that.
Ponds have always been an issue here. And in all the time I've been on this board, I don't know what's in developers' agreements. But for example, the homeowners should be responsible for their drainage system, for their ponds. And we talked about this so many times that most of these developments don't even look at the darn ponds. You don't ever see anybody dredging or doing anything. And we've talked about this. This goes back like 3 village engineers. This has been going on. And do you honestly know now, out of all the ponds, I know you know how many are in the village, how many have been checked to see the sediment levels and whether or not they're being maintained?
Um, I don't have the exact number offhand, but when I first started, that was one of the first things I recognized was sending outreach letters to all the pond owners, the property owners of those ponds. And we received a better response than I was expecting. I would say maybe a third of the about 170 responded. Most were very proactive with having hired a landscaping service to do maintenance on their ponds. So from that perspective, it was encouraging. However, during the DNR audit, they said, what's your follow-up to those letters from 2024 for those people that haven't responded? So that's something that I'm going to be working with Heidi on in the near future, is getting additional outreach letters out in the mail. And it's my understanding that in 2010 is when these long-term maintenance agreements were, that template was established. So prior to 2010, there was still the chapter NR 151 for the stormwater management requirement. When you increase an area with an impervious surface and that runoff becomes flashier during heavy storm events, then it's the requirement to reduce that by on-site best management practices, like a pond. So being able to address that in a way that mimics the requirements of 2711 for new developments, but applying it to
The older
older
ponds.
ones before the long-term maintenance agreement template was adopted is something I think is worth consideration. Maybe staff could bring back some language to include with these clerical revisions, and then it could move on to from Public Works to the village.
Yeah,
board.
I'd be curious too what the village attorney says about being retroactive like that. I'm sure there's a way it can be done, but I'd like that opinion. And that addresses, basically, we're talking about the landscaping. We're talking about cattails here or whatever, trees. But what about the sediment issue? What about when the ponds stop working the way they're supposed to be working?
I think the maintenance would include the sediment.
Think a landscaper would be able to do that?
I don't know that would necessarily be a landscaper.
Checking that.
As far as like taking a skid steer and scooping out the bottom and putting it into a truck and hauling it off.
Some of these ponds are old enough, we probably have to do that.
Right. So if it's a capacity, an issue because it's sedimented in and it's not functioning the same way that it was designed, then absolutely.
Who checks that? Who checks it? Is that DNR comes around, checks sediment levels, or this has been, something we've been talking about for about 10 years, easily, maybe more.
So the way the ordinance is structured, it's not prescriptive in the frequency of the maintenance inspections, other than that there's an agreement and a commitment to it being done, and the village could recover costs to go if the maintenance were performed by the village under these long-term maintenance agreements. The part that the sediment and the capacity issues, that's tricky. And because it's not a landscaper. But I think working with the attorney on language for on what's most appropriate for these ponds, I think that's a reasonable approach.
Doesn't their DNR require us to check these ponds to see if they're still functioning properly?
So the permit is a 5-year renewal permit, and in communication with the DNR, they basically said you have to inspect them at least once every 5 years to meet the permit requirements. So that's what we did with our outreach letter.
So 30% of them said we checked them and our ponds are wonderful. Is what I'm hearing.
I think that's a fair generalization, yes.
Oh, we got work to do. This is something I wish somebody would just put, like Kevin, put your arms around it and wrestle it to the floor, because it's been going on forever.
Scott wrestled about $25,000 worth of pond maintenance in
And you know what else is
in
going to be fun, Kevin?
2025.
Because nobody understands who owns what pond, and one that's in my district that comes up all the time is on Fond du Lac Avenue and down just Bear County line, is that condo complex where they take runoff from 2 highways as well as their own land in that condo complex. And they're the low part. I mean, the condo. But that, yeah. And then they have all the houses that are part of that development. They're actually sending water down the hill into that pond underground, who aren't part of the agreement to take care of that pond. You're going to come up with all these ridiculous scenarios. So if we have to take care of it, who pays for it? Whose tax bill does that go on? It's going to be a nightmare.
You know what the other fun part is?
Microphone.
That silt you talk,
I know.
that silt you talk about? 9 times out of 10, that's contaminated.
You got, yeah.
And
it's
you
not
need
cheap.
special licensed contractors to get that out of there and take it to a landfill.
Especially off roads, like those main roads.
Yeah, you got drainage off the roads and you gotta, yeah, talk about additional costs.
So there you go, Kevin. You have fun with that.
Well, I just want to give an example. Did you send that letter to all the homeowners associations as well, where the ponds are?
I sent it to the property owner listed in the
Yeah, so it would
geographic
be-
information
It
system
would,
database.
it would be in the common area, so it would be the
Wait,
HOA.
outlots are, of
Outlots,
homeowners.
yes,
of
it would be an
subdivisions,
outlot.
Yeah.
We do pond maintenance. We have a pond committee, and we have 3 ponds, and one of them has a fountain that goes in the spring and out in the fall. And a lot of them do, when I'm walking around, they do. We have one pond that's spring fed that we don't do any aeration, and the back pond is smallest, but it has 2 aerators. So we always have to get, so here's my question. We always have to get some sort of license to put minnows in. And is that connected to, from the DNR? Is that connected to ponds or anything? Do they check, hey, where are they taking the minnows? Are they feeding fish or what?
The focus of the DNR audit was on stormwater management, less so than like aquatic species. So
Oh.
the focus is on reducing the peak runoffs to a pre-development condition. So the ponds are functioning to kind of like a dam to kind of
Right.
hold the water for
Okay.
a little bit and then release it slowly.
Okay, so we have this huge storm sewer that goes under Donges Bay that flows into our pond.
So as part of the site developments, subdivision developments. There's analysis consistent with the village code of ordinances to make sure that stormwater is management is being designed to adhere with the requirements.
Okay,
And yes, then it ultimately would leave the pond and go into the larger municipal drainage system. It's permitted under this DNR Wisconsin Pollution Discharge Elimination System permit.
okay.
Here's an idea. Why don't we go to dry detention instead of these wet detention basins? Which means, well, the water isn't constantly in these basins, so it's a dry detention. It'll fill up with big storms in that, but it'll release it at a calculated rate. Therefore, you eliminate all of these issues. I mean, you cut grass because it's all dry now. You don't have the issue with cattails and impacts to the volume or the design capacities in that. So why not dry basins?
I don't know that it's prescribed in the code of ordinance other than the peak reduction and the water quality. That could also be evaluated as part of an amendment.
Just a
I
thought,
bet you didn't think this amendment would bring this much conversation.
especially
No,
widows.
I thought when I first thought about this, I thought it was just going to be a clerical up and down vote. And then I thought, you know what? This one thing about the long-term maintenance agreements seems like now is the time to mention it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll entertain a motion. I need a lot more.
So Kevin, you want this really postponed until a future
You-
meeting, right?
Yeah, to bring back additional language for an amendment to the ordinance, potentially following consultation with the village attorney regarding long-term maintenance agreements retroactively.
Is that,
I'm not saying all that, but I'll
Is
make
that-
a motion to postpone until the updates can be made.
I'll second.
And for further discussion, I'd just like to say, I'd like to see you come back and see what we're going to do about that. The other people who have not responded.
Yeah.
And maybe to also get some answers as to what DNR expects from us. Because some of these ponds, I personally know, have not been inspected in years and years and years. And if there is some type of recommendation that they have every 5 years, we got to set up a schedule, identify the ponds and communicate that as well. So I think this will not be a static issue. This is going to be an evolving issue over the next few months.
Yeah, in addition to working with Heidi, the asset manager has also helped with the GIS and our record system to be able to keep track of this.
Okay.
Excellent.
It's kind of a sidewalk plowing scenario because
It is.
these
Yeah.
people haven't done anything to these things, and then we're going to come and say, you got to maintain these things now.
Yeah.
then we have people like our subdivision
But
that
that should
do
be the
everything.
developer's agreement.
It should be.
Doesn't mean it happens.
That's another whole can of worms, how many developers agreements told the homeowners that.
Right.
It's like-
So anyway, it's a big
Is
project.
that under chapter 27 then, or not?
Chapter 27 is post-construction stormwater management, and that's the section where the long-term maintenance agreements are referenced.
Okay,
Okay, we have a motion. Any further discussion? All in favor?
I
Aye. Opposed?
We just tabled it. right?
It's unanimous.
we're-
It's postponed,
postpone.
Okay.
future meeting. Okay, what's next? Director's report? I guess we probably don't have that.
Kevin, no director's report?
You know, the one thing that I guess I would give people an update on is the process for new Public Works Director. The board at their not this past meeting, but the previous meeting, made a decision to open up the opportunity to internally to village employees. So it was posted. The deadline to submit applications was today. There were 4 applicants
Oh.
who applied for the position. And I think the village board is working on scheduling interviews with applicants next week. So that is moving along and should hopefully have that position filled soon.
Same description for the position as IPA is submitting.
The IPA description was for the administrator position.
Oh,
Yeah, they did not do one.
Okay.
We used.
Do we have a
when
current
we
one?
put Together the job description and the announcement, we used the one that we had put together previously for Matt's, when Matt was hired.
Okay. No announcements that we're aware of. Our next meeting date would be Wednesday, the 8th April, are you gonna still be here? Oh, good, so we don't have to say goodbye to Rick.
Donuts. Donuts.
Actually, April Fool's Day, I'm sorry, Passover and April Fool's Day, April 1st. Will be our next public works meeting.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Oh, April 1st.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's a Wednesday,
Yeah. Good. Already got it.
okay? And with that, unless anybody has anything else, I think we will adjourn at 7:29. Thank you, everyone. Morning.
thanks for doing our meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.